if you've got a question, if you'd like to pose it, we'd love to hear some of your questions. Both of you, to Sterling and Scott, I'd love to offer the first question. Where are you going?
I'm getting chairs.
Oh, okay.
I'm here to serve.
You are. A first question to both of you. When you look at the work that you do, with the engineering, and you mentioned that, at some point along the way, the engineering stuff is like, okay, that may be old hat, or, it's got a longevity to it. I mean, stuff rolls out.
Right.
And you mentioned, Sterling, that some of the people that present, a number of the people that have presented, thank you, KJ.
Thank you.
You're a great dude. That those businesses don't exist anymore, but yet in both of those places, people's best efforts are required, right? And so how does that sense of like giving your best effort and do something inside of them, even if long term, even if you've got to come back and redo the work sometime later, or the business launches and it does that, but yet it doesn't make. What does that do inside of a person when they give their best effort in those moments? And how does that, think about who you've seen it chained out in. How does that chain out and affect them and the people around them?
Good question. Do you want to take that?
Well, I don't know if I'm exactly sure what you're asking, but I mean, the projects, they come and go, and the relationships and the people that you build relationships with, those are what last when you're doing the project. So we make it a point to try to get close with the engineers we're working with and our clients, and they have lives and they have kids and they have pressures. So we try to make connections with them that will, it brings life to our stuff, because if it's just working on a line that makes macadamia nuts, we can have great experience with those. And I've had some real, fired up, yes, we did this and conquered, and I've gone behind the screen like they're in pump my fist when a line starts up and it runs good. It's just exciting for me as a nerd that's an engineer. But again, those things like that line, I don't know that line makes macadamia nuts anymore. I think it makes something else, and it's been transitioned because of the obsolescence of the products and things like that. So that's temporal, but the relationships you build with the projects, you bond. You're bonding with people when you're going through some of these. If you're just trying to start up a million cups organization, those people are bonding and they're creating life experiences, good and bad. And that's how we connect as humans. If we all just shared good experience, it'd be different. But when you really know who your connections are when you're going through a bad experience. So, and that's how some of our clients know they can trust us, because we've been through some rough times with them, and they know that we're not going to leave them hanging, and we're going to stick it out.
Jason, on that score, I think we've noticed at 1 Million Cups occasionally, not very often, we'll have an entrepreneur who will get up and share with us why his business collapsed or what went wrong. And that gets more comments both during the event and afterwards than anything else. And I think, to your point, it's really, most of the people take responsibility for that. Either I didn't do my research, I didn't do X. I mean, it's deflating. No one likes to fail. But I think in listening to them over the last 6 years, and even prior to just being in the business I'm in, most businesses start out with a really good idea. Now maybe they can't scale. Maybe it's just buying away, just not going to be a multi-million-dollar business. But most businesses start out. It makes sense, but there's one component in there, whether it's financing, commitment, life experiences, a life event, that all of a sudden they can't put into that business what they need to put into it. And so consequently, even though it's deflating, I think most people are able to see what that issue is. Hope that answers your question.
It does. And I've heard a number of those presentations. I always love, because it puts resiliency back into people. And resiliency, when it comes into community through people who've learned that sense that, you know what, I can fail and I can keep on going. Or we do one thing and then it's got something, that line goes to something else, and that excitement. But it's like there's a resiliency within the person. And I love your sense, Scott, of the relationships that are built. Because really, when you do go through hard times, You forge bonds that matter.
Yep.
Forge bonds that matter. Okay, I think we've got some questions. Yeah.
Hello.
There you go. Got
No,
Yeah.
I'm not. Oh,
Yeah.
now I can hear me. Dan Logan with Casa. First of all, thank you, Scott, for USC. You guys sponsored an event that we did this past weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So thank
Nice
you.
to meet you.
Yes, nice meeting you. High five. Yeah.
Yeah.
My question is, working in nonprofits, so obviously we appreciate the donations, we appreciate the support of businesses, banks, etc. But we don't always want to be seen. I'm speaking for all nonprofits. I don't know why. But we don't always want to be seen as people who just take, and never have an opportunity to give back. So obviously, it will look bad if we have a donation and when we say, hey, we want to give back to this business. That just doesn't make sense. But what ways as a nonprofit can we help support businesses? Because, like that, what you're talking about with God's business and running your business like that is like man, that's really cool. That's something that personally I can get behind. But how as nonprofits can we help turn around and support businesses?
Well, that's a good question. I think if the business has the right mindset, it's the nonprofit's work is you doing the work. We're kind of, in a sense, we're doing the easy part. We're paying you to do all this hard work. Laura's talking about being in the schools. It's all so much harder than what we're doing engineering-wise, and we're wired to do that. We can do that in our little cubicles and not get in the dirty work of dealing with people. So that's where it's so hard, right? So it's the blessing. What you guys are doing in the nonprofit world should be in and of itself good enough for the people to have the right mindset. It's like we're really investing in this because we know it's how hard it is. What nonprofits do for us, really, what is the most helpful thing is getting those stories back to us. Because when we give checks and money, and that's happened before, we gave some stuff away, or some big stuff sometimes, but you don't get the stories back. There's like a connection to where that money went and how that money was used. That's the biggest, that disconnect. You do that a time or two, and then there's plenty of other people with their hand out, and they've got good stories, and we're all connected by stories. We want to hear those good stories. So our people, when we sit around and discuss where the money's going to go, they're going to migrate to the good story. So it's really just getting the stories from out there in the world back to the sponsors and the people that you're looking to fundraise with, I think.
I think just asking the business what you can do for them is the first step, and probably most of them will say,
yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, hey, we appreciate you even offering, because most of the time, in my experience, you don't get that.
Yeah, just doing that would be fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, Sterling and Scott, great presentations. Thank you very much. My question is, Springfield's been recognized as a great place to start a new business by Money Magazine and different entities over the years. Why do you think, Scott, you and your wife both have businesses, and Sterling, you see numerous businesses started every year. Why do you think we're such a great incubator here for new businesses?
First?
Yeah, I've had a lot of thoughts on that, and I think there's a cultural component to that, and I do a lot of reading and studying on that, and I'm not saying I'm right by any means, but I think different parts of the country are more entrepreneurial bent because of maybe the cultural impact of that business and being your own boss, and you'd rather be poor than be beholden, as Daniel Woodrell, the author of Winter's Bone, etc., describes, I think, so well. So I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but I would certainly not discount just simply how probably most of the people in here are in this area, in this region, feel about that. So I think there's differences there.
Well, it's a supportive region, and there's a lot of connections, but that happens in other regions too. So I don't really. It is a Christian-based community, and that there's a lot of that plays into it. As far as why my wife and I started businesses, I inherited a business. I'm kind of running Dad's business he started, so I wouldn't give myself credit for starting that business. And my wife's business started because we were too cheap to buy custom-made shades when we built our house, and so she learned to do it. And then people come to our house. So, like, I wouldn't advise anybody to start a new business. It's horrible. It's like a lot of work. So go work somewhere. You can just punch a time clock. It's too hard.
Don't listen to him on that last point. Don't listen to him on that last point.
No, I'm kidding. It's very rewarding.
It is.
Yes.
It's hard work, but hard
work.
work is rewarding.
Yes.
Hard work is rewarding. We got time for one last question.
So, like, Springfield poverty rates are 5.7%. We had a first presentation about the school system and how a lot of these kids are suffering from social emotional trauma, which prevents them from actually developing the human capital they need to thrive in the new globalized society. When you think about the realities of late industrialization in Asia, that started with Japanese auto manufacturing being more efficient, culminating with Huawei. The fact that you talk about actually giving most of your profits to your employees so that they can buy from the people that are presenting at 1 million cups, to me seems like the answer to actually alleviating poverty when you think about the fact that like 6 cities get 75% of the venture capital. How do you inspire more people to be like you, to be that salt and light, to be Christ, so that we can have that middle out economy that really addresses poverty and helps the human capital in those local school systems?
Well, I alluded to it. I'm on the Springfield Generosity Council, so that's what we have a passion for, getting more people to see things the way they are, which is God owns it all. So, and there's actually, I'm involved with some of these donor advised funds and some of the financial tools where you can give money and things like that. Those guys are doing much research. We're getting ready to have the biggest wealth transfer in the history of the world. Billions of dollars, trillions of dollars to transfer over the next, 5 to 15 years as people age and the wealth that's been accumulated in our society. And we just our group is just like, get this message in front of people so they can be aware and start using some of that money to make a difference in society. Because instead of just passing it down to their trust fund and have their kids spend it on, not making good human beings when you're just passing money down in trust funds. And instead of waiting till your trust fund stage to give it away, you're robbing the blessing from yourself by doing this and making a big donation out of a trust. Just start doing it now, because then you'll get the blessing now, and the people that need it will get the blessing now. So it's moving that transfer of wealth, increasing the percentage just a slight amount as far as people open to give, and then moving it up from a future date to a current date is what we're trying to do.
That's good stuff right there. Sterling, you got anything to say about that?
No, I think I agree, though.
Yeah. I got to write Sterling's
They're
bio.
probably waiting for lunch.
They probably
Yeah,
are.
I was going to say we're in the red numbers on lunch.
Yeah, I know. I got to write Sterling's bio because he sent me like his resume, and I'm like, I'm not asking. I want to hire you for a job. I just want to like have you come and share. But he's got great stuff. But the one thing that I added, because I've got to work with him on 1 Million Cups as an organizer, and he knew I was, he's like, I said, you really want me to be an organizer with that? Because I'm a pastor. You're like, you want a pastor? He's like, don't worry. He said, Wednesday morning is like a church service for entrepreneurs. And it is in many ways. It's like, how do you, we have trouble sometimes getting people to church, but faith is really important to life. Entrepreneurship, building a business, hard work, starting a business. It's hard work. But I tell you what, if you want to invest in yourself, if you want to invest in the community, if you want to invest in the kids that live in this neighborhood, that live in everybody's neighborhood, well, it's hard work. And you got to pick up the hard work and you do it. And you encourage people. You run a church service for entrepreneurs. You run an engineering company with a bunch of nerds. And you say, you know what? We're planted in this town, in this community, in this neighborhood. And there's a responsibility we have. You can't run from it. You got to just pick it up and take it on. You got to do it. We got to see what God does, what happens in this place. Thanks for coming. Thanks to you two for showing up and sharing your stories.